Right, background and context then. I work for Gentoo Group, based in Sunderland, and we started off life as Sunderland Housing Group. We were a stock transfer RSL, and that was back in 2001, and we transferred 36,000 properties from the local authority. We rebranded in 2007 from Sunderland Housing Group into Gentoo. I won't go into why, but if you want to know, please come and ask me. But at that time, we also restructured the group as well and introduced a new set of vision, mission and values. And the reason I put the vision, mission and values up there is it's because I think it articulates the type of organisation that we are, or that we certainly want to be. Our vision is about improving the art of living beyond imagination, so it has got nothing to do with housing. It's about people's quality of life, ultimately. Our mission is about generating wealth by improving the lives of our customers and then reinvesting that wealth for personal and collective opportunity. So again, it's entirely about the work that we do as a group, how we work with people and reinvest that to improve people's quality of lives and the quality of communities as well. Tiny bit on the structure of the group. We have 6 subsidiaries. We've got the overall group, so we're really looking to have all that HR support, IT, accountancy in the group, and then we have 6 separate companies. The 3 on the left-hand side, construction, homes and ventures, are predominantly property companies. So they either build homes, design them, procure them, or do city centre regeneration. We have Gentoo Sunderland, which is our RSL. We manage something like 27,000 properties now we have in Sunderland and a few beyond Sunderland. When we restructured, we created Gentoo Green, which is our own environmental arm. And my bit is Gentoo Living, the bit on the right-hand side, which was brand new when we restructured. We brought together 4 separate teams and created a mad set of people to create Gentoo Living. In terms of what we do, we're split into 4 functions, and I won't go into massive detail about what the teams do, but we have 4 teams within Gentoo Living. There's our older persons service, predominantly funded through supporting people, so we provide supported housing related support in sheltered housing, multi-stories and core and cluster schemes. We also recently have a dedicated team to create activities and events for older people, inspirational events, not just bingo and sheltered schemes. Not that there's anything wrong with bingo, but activities that will encourage our older residents to interact not just with people within their scheme, but with the other schemes across the city. We have a young persons team. Again, a large part of that is housing related support. We have a homeless unit within the city centre and a whole range of different stages of intervention and support out into the community. Have an independent living skills programme where young people from within the service but also across the city get training in terms of financial capability, food, health, that type of thing. Community Kids is a programme we deliver in schools. Duke of Edinburgh is a really interesting one for us. I'm told, you might disagree with me, I'm sure you'll tell me if this is wrong, that we are the first organisation of our type to be an operating authority for the Duke of Edinburgh. That's something we entered into this year. What I really like about our Duke of Edinburgh is it's young people from our service, so some of the young people who are in Homewood, in our medium supported accommodation, young people from quite challenging backgrounds, young people who we employ in the organisation are going through Duke of Edinburgh. So I quite like the idea that there are some pretty rough kids from Sunderland on the Duke of Edinburgh. We have a people and communities team. The focus of their work is work skills and enterprise, so getting people into work, creating business startups. Staff volunteering, predominantly at the minute we want to make that much more with a community focus, but at the minute it's staff volunteering. And then Community Plus, which is our community grants programme, our community empowerment programmes, and some work that we're doing around some specific neighbourhoods. And then finally our business development team. It's this team that carries out needs assessments of our vulnerable customers, people particularly with mobility issues who can't manage their current properties, and it's that team who arranges different alternatives for them. And then we have a range of accommodation within the city which we let to other partners, again to provide accommodation for vulnerable groups or people with drug, alcohol problems, offenders, and we provide that type of service. In terms of why did we look at outcomes and social accounts, as you've just seen, we are delivering a lot of programmes which are about having a social and economic benefit, and we didn't know whether they were or not. So we wanted to measure what impact they were having and how effective those programs were. We really do want our programs to make a difference. We don't want to just do them for positive PR. We want to make sure that they work. As a group, we invest our tenants' rents in these programs, so we really need to make sure that they are effective and that we understand that they are impacting on the people who actually benefit from them. And I suppose one of the benefits of doing this, which has kind of become apparent afterwards, is that the work we've done really has created an improved shared understanding amongst our teams as to why we are doing the work that we do. I won't go into the process in detail. It started a couple of years ago. It's been quite torturous. It's quite difficult, starting from a standing start, moving away from measuring outputs. I could have told you any number of outputs about our programs. How many young people do we work with? How many training schemes do we run? How many older people do we support? What I couldn't tell you is the so what question. What is the impact of that? So we've done an awful lot of work looking at things like why we do things, stripping back our programs and converting those things into aims and objectives. Language, dead quick one this, but it's really important. What we found at the outset was that people really have got a different understanding of what an aim is, what's an objective, what's an output, what's an outcome. So we use something which is quite well recognised, and it's the outcomes triangle, because we even went so far as to looking at some of our past business plans and really realised that a lot of them had a whole mismatch of aims, objectives, and we pretty much started those from scratch. So we use and this is quite well recognised. We didn't develop this. This is used by the Charities Evaluation Foundation and all manner of people. But this is how we try to articulate the work that we did. So, and again, I used to run things like a weekly outcomes quiz for my team. How sad can you imagine that must have been? But it was to absolutely embed the type of language we were using. So an aim is the change or benefit that we're trying to achieve, and objectives are the things that we do in order to achieve them. And we were quite specific again in terms of the type of language that relates to an aim and the type of language that relates to an objective. And again, the whole outcome and output debate, we spent a lot of time just reinforcing that. It might seem quite a simple issue, but we spent a lot of time reinforcing that with the team. We spent so much time gathering outputs, and we really knew that we needed to move towards gathering outcomes. So again, we're quite clear about the difference between the two. And it was quite clear that we measure our aims and whether we've achieved them through outcomes, and we measure the programs through the outputs. So we still do a whole range of output measurement, but we also do outcome monitoring as well. And this was the culmination of that work. Ultimately, we ended up with Gentoo Living's overall aim is to inspire and empower enriched ways of living, which links directly with the group's vision. And when we stripped back all of the programs that we do, we ultimately decided that we did what we did for three main reasons. The first one was about individual people, and it was to enable them to fulfil their aspirations. The second one was about communities, and it was about, from our point of view, because my team encompasses our community engagement work and community empowerment work, those objectives are very much about involving people and working with people. They don't include the work of other parts of the group, like our new build arm, our neighbourhood management arm. So we were quite specific that these are Gentoo Living's objectives, not necessarily for other parts of the group. And then the other important thing for Living was that we add value to the rest of the group by enabling us to improve the amount of social and economic benefit that we generate from the work that we do. And from that, we produced a set of outcomes that we felt that we wanted our programs to achieve. You can then translate them into the outcomes triangle, so we have one for individuals, one for communities, and one for the organisation. And in terms of where we're at now, we've done all that work around outcomes. We've kind of decided what outcomes we feel our programme should achieve. We did an awful lot of work around outputs at the same time in terms of getting some structure to the way that we gathered that. And our initial foray into measuring outcomes was the production of social accounts. That's where we looked at each of the programmes that we run, predominantly those which had an impact on individual people, and did an assessment of the outcomes that those programmes achieved. So we produced our first set of social accounts this year. They were validated by an audit panel in May, I think it was, and we're currently assessing whether we would do that again. We've now moved on to social return on investment because we feel that there are some distinct differences between the two. Social accounts have helped us to look at the work that we do and try and understand the outcomes that we have on people. But when we do the consultation, it's very much about asking people, has your confidence improved? Has your motivation improved? And that loses perhaps some of the unintended outcomes of the work that we're doing, and potentially negative outcomes that our work might have that wouldn't identify. And that's what I like about social return on investment. We're doing social return on investment on the individual programmes that we do. And that effectively means understanding what the inputs were, what it's costing us, understand the outcomes, try to create some form of financial proxy for those outcomes. What I particularly like about social return on investment is that it's a well-recognised methodology, and it forces you to look at what would have happened anyway, what are other people doing, how long do these outcomes last, and you are forced to go through those questions before you arrive at the financial value. We've only done two, I've got to stress, we're still early stages. We did one on our supported apprentice programme, which was interesting. From an outcome point of view, what that showed us was that supported apprentice programme was effectively getting young people into the organisation, work experience for a year, and then hopefully sustaining that employment. When we did the social return on investment analysis, what that identified was the young people said to us, yeah, I'm getting good skills, I'm being well mentored at work, my confidence has gone up. But what they also said was, this has changed the structure of my life. I used to go to bed at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Must be a great lifestyle, this I'm about to describe. I used to go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to wake up the following lunchtime. I didn't really used to interact with my family, and my health was crap. At least 3 out of the 10 said that working had brought a structure into their life. They were getting up early, they were getting home when their families got home, they were eating with their families, interacting more with them. And it was those types of outcomes which improved their health, their relationships, which were really interesting. That if we simply measured that as a work programme, we perhaps wouldn't have identified. I think the key thing for me is they aren't all seen in isolation, they're all part of an outcomes package. Bit on social accounting, that's the process, quite prescriptive. It worked for us at the time. We've produced a report which will go to funders, etc. Whether we'll do it in that format again, I don't know. The key point I think about social accounts for us was that we had no information about outcomes at all, so we had to do quite a substantial exercise of consultation with our customers. What we're now doing is embedding that outcome measurement into the processes that we've got. So when a young person comes into our service, we do a front-end assessment of what they feel their confidence, motivation, etc. is like, and we measure that over time. And then outcomes of the process. I really think it's been beneficial for us. We've got a shared understanding now within the team of what we're trying to achieve and how our programmes contribute to it. We've got an agreed set of outputs and outcomes, which over time we might look at them and decide that perhaps they weren't the right ones, and we'll review them. And our business plan absolutely demonstrates how our aims are being achieved by the programmes that we do and the outcomes that we've identified are being achieved.
Peter, you know you talked about your measurement of impact. Have you tried to measure an organisational wide impact, or has it just been within